Viewers on Sly Media TV, thank you so much for joining us live here on the biggest online news platform in Zimbabwe for 275,000 followers. And today we are so fortunate enough to be speaking to Prof. Mugano. He's not new, he's an advisor, he's a lecturer, he's a writer, he's an economist himself. Do you think there is political pressure on our governors for the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, with the new governor, Dr. Mushayavanu? We're also talking of Dr. Mangudya. We also talk of Dr. Gift Mugano. Is there political pressure in their implementation of things that they have learned from school, which they use and which becomes the fishing line for them to be employed as governors because of their intellect, which is on their CV? Is there political pressure for them not to implement what they think is the best for the economy of Zimbabwe?
No, thank you very much. There is evidence of political pressure. So I will not go far to Dr. Gono's time, but I still want to say during his time, there was evidence of political pressure. But I want to deal with the recent evidence on Dr. Mangudya. I'll give you two examples. The first example is in 2022 in May, when the president made the announcement, Comrade Idi Mnangagwa, made an announcement about on monetary measures to stabilize the economy. His announcement succeeded a monetary policy committee meeting, which was held in April the same year. So he came, I think, few weeks after the MPC statement. In the MPC statement, they had set money supply growth per quarter at 5%. So the announcement by the president now, which followed that, he set the money supply growth at 0% per quarter. So he nullified monetary policy decisions. In the same announcement, he also made a decision to suspend lending, which was catastrophic, and it did not last because of its dire consequences.
We spoke about that.
There were shortages already emanating, happening. That's first example. The second example, the Minister of Finance last year at ZITF, he made a statement that, make no mistake, we are going to announce monetary policy measures, we are going to raise interest rates. You don't make those statements as a Minister of Finance. That is on the policy instruments which are under the purview of the central bank. And in line with that statement, this was April last year. In May, he also made the announcement on policy measures. And to be very specific with you, in February, Dr. Mangudya, on exchange control policies, he had reduced the deposit retention from 20% to 15%. I did not agree with him on that one. I had asked him to scrap it. But he wanted to keep foreign currency, build reserves foreign currency. So he was reducing it slightly. The Minister of Finance, in his pronouncement, he scrapped the exchange control. He made an announcement on also export retention that is now under his purview. And he also introduced some measures which are interest related. So interest rate. So those are the facts around the political interference in the central bank. And the challenge now is not only about the turfism between the governor, central bank, and the Minister of Finance. It's around the confidence. Whatever central bank says is not trusted, because people still think that someone from external forces, from government, whichever department, will come and give the governor instruction, and he will not stick to his word. That's why some of you guys, you are asking the governor, what is going to happen if you don't stand with your word, not under my watch? But I pray that I'm sure we all learn that maybe government has learned that this interference is not good. We pray that under the new era of the new governor, hopefully you will have independence.
At the present moment, you are in South Africa. Are there any lessons that can be learned from other countries that have undergone similar currency change reforms? I know in Zambia at some point, the kwacha, was something else. People used to go with wheelbarrows. In Mozambique, Metcash, at some point, it was like that. What lessons do we learn from the regional partners in government?
So I think in Zambia, dialogue is always very important. They did a dialogue. I remember because current crisis emanate from lack of production. The rest which I are now talking about, say money supply here is one of the factors. But if there's money is backed with production, it's not a problem.
Okay.
So Zambia, I recall, in literature, there's extensive literature around how they have worked to support their currents. They went into a serious dialogue. Initially, they prioritized 15 sectors of the economy, then they brought them down to 3 sectors. They focused in those areas, and they begin to rebuild their economy. Politics is also an important factor in terms of stability, how we relate as Zimbabweans. We should not be enemies because of our difference in political ideology. Here in Zimbabwe, I think we are getting it wrong. There's too much toxicity. Check what's happening on social media, on Twitter. It's just a war, fighting. No one says something which can pass through without any fight. Some of the ideas which we are submitting might be making sense, but we miss them if we are bled by politics. This morning, I am under barrage on Twitter from ZANU-PF colleagues, clearly to silence whatever you are saying on the economy. I'm just trying to invite them to reason, that let's reason. It's not necessary. We are Zimbabweans, this country need us all. Majeso had a song that Anzi Satarisa Mumu Tere Mashoko. Umwakaudzwa hondo nemurwere wepfungwa. Akasamutera katanopenga. This is what we are doing. So let's listen to each other. But we need unity of purpose. We need consensus. We need shared vision as Zimbabwean. Clearly, this country need us to deposit money in the bank. So we can't say this governor, I don't like him. We're going to put money in the bank. So how are we going to create savings? How are we going to create savings if we put money under the mattress? So we need to mobilize our minds towards production. I'm working with this spirit of, we are moving towards independence, right? And I always remember, and I've been saying this in a number of platforms now, and I'll repeat it, that during the liberation struggle, our people were very united. So we might want to go far in terms of regional experience, but we can also come back home. We united to fight for our independence. I remember the songs which we would hear when we were at school, even via the radios, not during the struggle, but I was born 2 years before independence. But the song which we hear, which they were singing, were very touching. That Msandi Cheme Ndaenda Ndeka. Because the statement is this, that I am going to fight for my country and I might not come back. Don't cry. Don't mourn me. Now, the current generation is not sincere to the cause of national development. We can't put money in the bank. We can't just support central bank financial inclusion. We can't put money in the bank because we are afraid we lose our money, not our lives. We are afraid we lose our money, not our lives. If we were colonized today, do you think our generation would go to war? The answer is no. Because if we can't put money in the bank, if we can't accept our currency to say, let's unite to love our currency as a Zimbabwe, whatever happens, it's our currency. It's our currency. We can't do that. Why? Because it begins from
say I died for this country.
Yes, it begins from leadership. It begins from our leadership. Our leaders must not allow what is happening here, where we have toxicity, calling each other names, fighting each other. We might have our own weaknesses as a people. But let's correct each other. Let's not fight.
That's when you hear opposition coming. I will not hesitate to, because it's in the public domain, and I don't know what to give him. Okay, I will say the former Triple C leader, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, he's saying the country does not need new currency, but it needs new leadership. What's your take on that? Because you are saying let's be united.
Yes.
But here the opposition is taking advantage of misdemeanor in this introduction of the new currency and whatever, and then it becomes a vehicle for the opposition to garner for votes.
Yeah. So basically, I guess his reading is based on the experience of what we have gone through in terms of cycle of current crisis. We have 26 plus years of current crisis. Are you with me?
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. So anyone in his rational mind will tell you that if you pretend over failure
Okay.
For 26 years and you are sincere, right, to the national cause, you as a government, maybe you need to think how we might want think of bringing new leaders to look at this crisis which we are having. I will tell you one thing: in a company, CEO has got in some companies 2 terms. Why are they doing that? They are doing it because they want to create fresh ideas. But at a company level, it is not polarized because it's a company, right? There's no politics there.
There's no, yeah.
But a CEO comes and what? And go. Sometimes the whole board is what? Is fired.
Yes.
So leadership renewal is always very important because you bring fresh ideas. And also you take time to watch from a distance and see what was going wrong and what was working, right? So in Zimbabwe, this is an area where when you talk about in politics, it becomes a taboo. You remember I made a decision to stop commenting when my comments were not pleasing certain quarters, and I said I'm taking a break. And I apologized for those who could have been offended, right? No one was holding a gun on me, but the idea was to listen to myself in my silence, learn, relearn, unlearn, and relearn. And then begin now to see how, when I come back, how then do I engage with my citizens, because everyone's voice is very important, but if your voice is not being heard, you must reflect on that. It's part of leadership. We are leaders in our own respect. But I'm sure Honorable Chamisa can also qualify more on what he was meaning, but I still want to argue that clearly we have spent 26 or so, if I count from 14 November 1997 to date, we should be worried. The platform for leadership change always through elections. And Zimbabweans have that responsibility to look at it to say, which kind of government do we want? And we also want our systems, our institutions, to make sure the voices which are being, or the votes of the people are respected. And what comes out is respected as well. Then we move forward. It must never be a monkey water issue where we are fighting and where we are like at war. We should focus on economic independence. We've got our political independence. Let's be like the Japanese. I wanted to give this example, and I'm just trying to come back to it. When the Japanese came out of the World War II, devastated by the Hiroshima disaster, they made a political and an economic decision to say we are not disengaging the fight which we are doing in the World War II. We are taking our political fight to the economic fight. Right. The Japanese should be known as powerhouse in the economy. So Zimbabweans are educated. We should always challenge our mental faculties to say, we are educated. We are known everywhere. Look at how many people are in South Africa, Zimbabweans, worldwide. Where are their positions? Holding serious positions. Tells you that we have capacity. What we don't have is political will to unite our minds and to talk. And people in offices, senior offices, must not come out attacking people or barraging people or instilling fear. So what? To intimidate, fair and fine. Suppose we succumb to intimidation or keep quiet. Are you better today because we have kept quiet? Are you not better off when we are all talking? Are you not better off when we are coming to the round table? Are you not better off when you bring all these Zimbabweans to the table and make this country the Switzerland of Africa?
Yeah. Through your tenure or your experience as a researcher, as an advisor, as a lecturer, what is the most frustrating thing that you have ever come across in terms of your ideas being implemented by the stakeholders that build this economy? Precisely the government, or maybe the private sector, or the Reserve Bank?
Very much. That's a very good question. My major frustration on the Zimbabwean economic problem is that I have said it over and over that our challenges, economic challenges, and obviously I would want to go into political challenges. Let me stay in the lane of economics today. Are structural challenges. Structural in the sense that if you look at our production issues, our production is not working. Yes, we are not at zero, but we are not where we can be. And I still want to motivate a debate that our industrial policies must be put in the public domain. We debate about that. We come up with what we think are the right industrial policies. Our agricultural policies must be fine-tuned. I said they are very good, but we must fine-tune them to make them market-led, but of course with institutional support, strong institutional support to avoid market failure. So we need to have a robust agricultural industry. We have land, imagine, of 33 million hectares, which is arable, and we are only using 11% of land. So we can feed Africa as a country. We have water bodies. We have over 14,000, if I'm not mistaken, dams in this country. And under our current installed water bodies, we can plant even 2 million on irrigation. We will feed Africa. So it frustrated me when you are holding resources like this, and you have a drought, and you are calling out for support. It's not what we should be doing as Zimbabwean. In terms of structural challenges, this country will not move if you don't have an integrated energy plan, which is looking at all forms of energy
to power the
industrialization. My father, Honorable Mchangwa, will tell you about Mani's story. He likes it so much because he put a lot of effort in looking for those investors, and I respect him for that. But do you know Mani's will demand about 500 megawatts of power, which is 1/4 of our normal production if we are at full throttle. So it's a new entity coming in which can disrupt the supply of energy in as much it will be producing. And what is happening to other industries which are emerging in the mining sector, there's a lot of activity there. So we need that energy plan. And these are structural supply side I'm talking about, right? We need also value addition to be a serious issue. Value addition and beneficiation. Our exports, 92% are raw materials, 70% minerals, 22% agricultural, 92 raw materials. How do we develop? So again, you go back to your industrial policy. Where is the value addition and beneficiation strategy? We are importing.
It's in the pending file.
You see. So 44 years down the line after independence, very soon we'll be celebrating a golden jubilee. What do we have to show? And these are the things which frustrate me when I'm speaking.
We have more universities to show.
Exactly. In every province, there's a university.
Yeah. But
the universities are not the problem. The policy maker, even as we are speaking, do we have a consensus around this? If we disagree, why? Let's agree why are we disagreeing. So why am I frustrated? You media people, you can agree with me that the only platform which you know where you go to, correct me if I am wrong, is the mandate policy presentation, is the budget presentation. Have you ever been to the platform where industry and policy is taking a review of its industrial policies in these years?
Maybe it's done behind closed doors because of
it tells you a problem.
Leak
No. Yeah. A policy is not implemented by government. It's implemented by businesses, by you and me. Government is the supplier of policy. We demand policy. It is a public policy. It's not a private policy. That's why I call them public policies. So you can confirm they have never been there.
No.
You have ever been at a platform where there are trade policies which are being discussed, reviewed, national export strategy being discussed and reviewed? So how do you build foreign currency? You were not there. In your record as a media guru, you have not been in that platform. That is the missing link. This is the cake which we need to build. The industrial policy, the agricultural policy, the trade policy, and other sub-policies which are like your local content regulations, which promote or a local content act, a local production, a local consumption to substitute imports, preserve foreign currency. Those things are not being done. That is the cake. The mandatory policy which you go run to, and the fiscal policy, this is the budget, is the icing. So all these years we've been dealing with the icing. And no one can say I've eaten a cake if you have been eating the icing. So that is where I have a lot of frustration. And government, this is my last comment, has not been engaging, even if when you go to them, except Minister of Agriculture, I must say this, and the former governor of Central Bank, Dr. Manguja, those two. Go to Dr. Masuka, you engage him, you write him an email, he will say, let's come and sit. I remember one day when I was coming from Bulawayo, I was supposed to meet him at 3 p.m. I was delayed because of traffic. He waited for me up to 7 p.m. Anyway, the serious discussion about the commodity exchange. And here it is there. And that is being a super minister. Okay. And even if when he gets his awards, even if when he has a drought, I will still not say anything because he's got a soft thing around himself. Which minister can wait for you from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.? And which minister can assure you that Gift, if you want to see me, you can come to my office even at 7 p.m. I'll be in, 7 a.m. I'll be in my office. You see, that is what we want to see. The former governor of Central Bank, you would write to him, Governor, I have an issue which I want to share. I will send with him my view, my paper, and everything. He said, come, let's sit and talk. I will sit with him, the two of us, and we discuss. Why? Because we are trying to shape the agenda. The rest of these ministries, you won't see them. You write them a document, they won't even respond to you. I'm not saying I'm dying to be seen, but this is a narrative which you hear even from businesses, that this ministry, they are not accessible. A minister is called as a guest of honor to a conference. We attend this conference. You know them.
Even in parliament,
they don't go. Absent. Yeah, so that is my pain to say. So how are we going to develop? So it's not about Mugano. It's about the culture of ministers and how they engage with the public to say, if you need a bigger platform, they will not come. They will send a person who will not make a decision. And eventually you see that the mood has changed. People are demoralized. So we need to change the way we are interacting. And that has been, I think, the least disappointing thing in my interaction with the public.
Your words of wisdom to Prof. Mugano, what are your words of wisdom to the ordinary man? I know we have spoken of some hints to the business community, the Reserve Bank, the government, the ministers, but to the ordinary man in the street, what is your word of advice as we conclude this interview?
So I would want to say that for Zimbabweans, let's work to defend our currency. The Zimbabwean currency, can only be defended by Zimbabweans. All of us, let's give the governor of Central Bank a chance. But we want all of us to play our role. We want the government to play their role in terms of allowing all their services and taxes to be paid in ZIG. That will allow the men in the street to support the currency because they will know that I have to pay tax using ZIG. So we have to keep it than to run to the black market and change it. So naturally, the men in the street and the women in the street have to be directed by policy, not by whipping or by arresting. It has to be a need based on a situational setup that there's no way tax is needed in ZIG. The men in the streets, they want passport. They need licenses, driving licenses, marriage certificate, death certificate. I've seen a circular from government saying that citizenship, marriage certificates, death certificate are all exclusively in US dollars. previously you're talking about a passport to say they want foreign currency. What foreign currency do they need to give me a death certificate? You see, so some of these measures government take, I think they go extra mile in damaging the credibility of their own currency. So they must also play their role. So government must lead. And once they make their first step, I'm rallying citizens to support that first step of using our currency. Together, we can make Zimbabwe great.
Prof. Mugano, I must thank you for affording us this interview. We know and we understand you're a very busy man. You had just popped into Zimbabwe, and we managed to meet you, and you agreed to give us this interview. We want to thank you for the wisdom that you have given to our viewers, our followers, our subscribers during this short period that you have been in Zimbabwe. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to talk to you and to talk to Zimbabweans. And this is the only home which we have, and we must build it. Thank you.
This is Yabuda TV, Hakudima CV, Slay Media TV, and this sport and dream street in a zone and Japa news in Daka wonder name of Vusi. Slay Media TV, man, they change my dreams. Slay, oh yeah, Slay Media. 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 Kuchinja vision, yema ghetto youth. Kuchinja life, yema ghetto youth. Kutipa nzira semageto youth, kutipa gwarara mangwana rakanaka. Slay, oh yeah, slay.